Hello, and welcome back to The Give and Go. I'm your co-host Reynoso, here with my boy
Soltero. What's up, guys?
We have so much to talk about because this is our last episode, bro. Our last episode before we embark on an incredible journey to Argentina specifically, where we will see you kiss the soil, hopefully, and where we will celebrate Argentina winning the 2022 FIFA World Cup. So there's a lot for us to talk about here because we have to cover so many different topics, ranging from the Copa America draw, the Euros draw, the Liga MX semifinals, Santos getting relegated, our Club World Cup preview and predictions. We've got a lot to cover here. And before we do that, I just want to remind the listeners and viewers to please sign up for our Patreon. $5 a month. You'll get exclusive content every single day. And on top of all that, you'll get to get early access to all the content that we post while we're in Argentina. Specifically, the clips of Soltero. You know, you're saying you might even get a tattoo up there, bro. We'll see. Our Patreon viewers will be able to see that first before anybody else. And beyond that, you get to submit Patreon-specific questions that show up on the podcast. You get to participate in our live streams that we'll be hosting on there in the future, and many more benefits. For $5, I think it's a good deal.
It's a hell of a deal, and it also helps feed Producer Rudd. Yeah. So if you want to really make a difference on this pod, please sign up for our Patreon.
Yeah, man. We already have, I think, 6 total members, so off the bat,
shout out.
Really grateful for that. Shout out to every single one of you, and we're going to keep an eye on many more people that continue to join. So please join our Patreon. With that being said, bro, why don't we start with Liga MX, where we just saw Tigres defeat Pumas 1-0 away from home. Looking really confident now, going back to El Volcán with a 1-0 victory where Pumas will need 2 goals to get back into this matchup. Tigres wins, man, and honestly, it went just as we predicted.
Yeah, this was a really entertaining game, especially in the first half. Tigres had a lot of the ball, but Pumas were super scrappy once they actually got the ball back and went directly at Tigres' defense. Samir looked a little concerning speed-wise on a couple of occasions, man. Yeah. But other than that, Guido Pizarro was able to pick up those pieces, and just a couple of bad touches here and there from Pumas didn't allow them to get the goal or the golden chance that they needed. And it was 0-0 for the longest time. The second half, Pumas actually saw a lot more of the ball. Tigres end up scoring. They end up scoring with a really beautiful curler, but one that should have been saved, in my opinion. I mean, you saw it. What did you think about that?
I thought the keeper was having a great game up until that point. That's what they were asking him to do, because once that red card came in, you just know that you're going to have to encounter way more opportunities and that they're going to come at you very strong. And he was doing so great until that specific shot that's going to keep him up the entire night tonight, because he got his hand on it, but he just put his hand a little too low. I don't know if the ball had some sort of whipping effect to it that might have tricked him. Overall, I was disappointed. I know he himself was disappointed in how he approached that shot, resulting in Angulo's goal.
Yeah, he completely got there. It wasn't even a matter of that. I just think he miscalculated the trajectory. Again, maybe there's like a small little dip that tricked them, but either way, Tigres get the goal. The red card also before that, Pumas down a man for 30 minutes. But what's crazy is that it didn't even look like it. Tigres kind of really let go of the pedal in that second half. They let Pumas have the ball, even though they could have really killed them, try to go up 2 or 3-0, but Tigres kind of looked a little tired in that second half. And I was looking at it. One thing about Tigres, and it kind of goes back to what I said about Gignac and Guzman, like what are they going to do when they leave? The average age of Tigres' starting lineup, 31 years old.
Good Lord.
31.
Good Lord, man.
Yeah, exactly. Gignac's 38, and that doesn't help either. Guzman, Guido Pizarro, Rafael Carioca, all these guys are like definitely in their mid-30s. And you can kind of tell that Tigres going into the latter stages of games, they definitely move the ball a little bit slower. Yeah. But that's also, I think, why they're so good, is that they have the most experience out of any team in Liga MX right now. And it really showed today, because honestly, I think Pumas could have gotten a better result here, but they didn't. And why? Because they played Tigres, you know, the team that always does stuff like this. No matter how scrappy the game is, even if it's back and forth and it's actually a really fluid game, Tigres find a way to win. That's what we've learned over the last couple of years. Tigres win, and they've done it once again.
Yeah, Pumas, they had their chances, many half chances, honestly.
Yeah, a lot of half chances.
Chino Huerta had like a scissor kick attempt that just happened to go straight to the keeper. They had a number of shots that looked good for a while, but then they just went out wide. They had their moments, but truly nothing truly clear, in my opinion. Yeah. And with Tigres, it was also kind of the same mix. Nicolas Ibanez hit the post in the first half. That was a really good opportunity.
That was a crazy.
Yeah, that was nuts.
Crazy attempt.
A crazy attempt. But all in all, I mean, I wasn't surprised to see Tigres ultimately take control in terms of the scoreboard. They lost it a little bit towards the end when Pumas started coming at them, but I think Pumas woke up a little too late in this match. They should have figured it out when they had 11 players. And Tigres themselves, I think, despite them allowing Pumas to come at them, still knew in the back of their minds that they just weren't going to crack them. And they didn't, bro. So now they have an incredible result going back home where I do think they'll ultimately take care of business pretty easily.
Yeah, and a lot of Pumas' half chances actually came from really dumb mistakes at the back from Tigres, whether it was the defense or actually Guzman himself just taking too much time on the ball to clear it. And so, yeah, I think ultimately Pumas just didn't do enough. I think Tigres deserved to win today, just barely. And going back to El Volcán, I think they're going to take care of business, as you said.
Now, my only thing that I took away from this match, truly, ultimately, because I did think that Tigres would end up getting the better of Pumas in this result was, does this Tigres side so far look like the type of team that can slow down a squad like America?
Yeah, well, let's go to that America. Let's go San Luis game, because poor San Luis, man. They had no idea what was coming to them, man. They had no clue. And they got rocked. Yeah, they got absolutely rocked.
They had no idea who they let into that stadium, bro. No, monsters, animals, animales.
And it's exactly what I wanted. It is exactly what we called for in the last podcast, for America to wake up and win a knockout stage game in style. They did it on the road. They took care of business. Absolutely smashed Atlético San Luis. There is zero chance that San Luis go through. America's in the final. And what I'm going to go ahead and say is probably going to be against Tigres. But for America, man, they look so good. The first, in the second minute, beautiful ball over the top. Henry Martin with a perfect touch. Then he had the know-how to lay it off. Little deflection and immediate goal. And I was like, oh shit, San Luis are done here, man. Yep. They're starting this way. This is how they're going to start the semifinal. And it just got worse. It got way worse.
I really think that someone like Sendejas listens to the podcast and relay the information, because almost everything we mentioned last episode about America came true. Because who scored that first goal, brother? It was none other than Diego Valdez, who I pleaded on camera and said, he hasn't woken up yet. Give him that time. And if he wakes up and if he goes off, then it might be enough to just take over the San Luis side. 2 goals in this match, the first and third one to essentially kill off the match. Diego Valdez comes through, and America as a whole response to our criticisms of them not really continuing that consistency that they had shown in the regular season going into La Liguilla, with how they struggled in a way against León and how they weren't, rampant and they weren't like overly attacking. This matchup showed everything that we wanted to see away from home, taking care of business. Not only that, but standing on business and proving that they are the better team here in this matchup.
Yeah, Quiñones, I thought, looked a lot more dangerous, or his more usual self, if you will, too. So America, pretty much in every single position on the pitch, absolutely dominated. And defensively, too, Vitinho, Murillo, completely nullified. They couldn't do anything out there. A perfect match, essentially, from America's perspective. And obviously, if they do play Tigres, or hell, even if they play Pumas, it will definitely be a tighter match. I think Atlético San Luis at the back are pretty leaky in general. But even then, if let's say America play with the same vigor, the same style, the way they move the ball so quickly, and also couple that with all the technical ability that each offensive player possesses, I think America's going to win it. I have America lifting this title, playing this way, playing the way they played in the regular season. I just think they play the best football in Mexico right now.
Yeah, man, it's electric. And if there's a team that can slow down Tigres or finally overtake them, it's going to be a team like this.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I think I still go for the experience, for the championship mentality that Tigres has. Guignac in a final is very, very tough to beat. And for them to take down one of the Super Clásico participants last year in Chivas and then follow it up by doing the same thing against America this year, I think would be perfectly fitting. I'm still going to stick to Tigres because I just know what they're capable of. But absolutely, bro, America could really be that team that takes them down finally, because, bro, they were olaying at the San Luis Stadium, bro. The fans, you could hear them, they were screaming. And what's really scary about this America team for me specifically is I was looking at their lineup And I was looking at the bench, bro.
Oh.
Their bench depth is crazy for a Liga MX side. They had Israel Reyes on the bench, Kevin Alvarez, Richard Sanchez, who for so many years started in that defensive midfield position for America, Jonathan Cabecita Rodriguez, Leo Suarez. All these guys, most of these guys have been important pieces in playoff runs for America in the past, and yet here they are on the bench because what's starting on the field is already strong enough. Yeah. That really impressed me, but also scared me in a way, man, because I was like, holy shit, America has themselves a really, really good team. Unless Atlético San Luis can pull off the craziest comeback in Liga MX history, we're going to see America face off against Tigres in that final, man, and it's going to be an electric one.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy because no matter what, Tigres will show up.
Yeah.
Even though I thought they had, again, not as vibrant of a performance against Pumas today, they got the job done. And come finals, Tigres always amp up their performances, always. It's that experience that we've talked about, but it's also André Pierre Gignac, who unfortunately was, I guess, slightly injured today. Yeah. But going back to kind of what I've said in last episode, I do think Gignac has a Messi-like presence on the pitch because when he plays, I think defenses doubt themselves a little bit. Maybe they try to double team him ever so slightly, and it opens up the pitch for Aquino and Lainez, and also even Carioca or Pizarro from the midfield positions. So when you have André Pierre Gignac, even if he's not on the ball, if he's on the pitch, he's making a huge impact. And then, of course, you even give him a half chance in and around the box, he's going to be absolutely deadly. Well, so that's why you just can't. We cannot disregard Tigres as title contenders, even if they're playing against this good of a team in America.
Yeah, I mean, the result they got today, a really good 1-0 win at Pumas Stadium. There are moments where I could see like hesitation in the Tigres players, specifically like Córdoba, once he got in one of his little dribbling sprees, or Diego Lainez. Because Gignac wasn't there, I mean, just imagine the mental confidence it gives that when you're dribbling, when you're on the ball, it's like, if I don't know who to go to, just look for Gignac. You know where he'll be, send it his way, and he can figure out what to do with it. I think you saw the impact that not having Gignac on the pitch does for Tigres. They're still so good that they're able to win the match, but the fluidity up top, I saw a lot of inconsistency and a lot of hesitation amongst the players that once Gignac slots in as just that go-to man up top for Tigres, it just adds another layer of offensive threat that I think completes this Tigres team overall. And so since we're not going to be here, just final predictions, let's put them in. You know, assuming Pumas doesn't pull off a crazy comeback and Atlético San Luis loses as well, America Tigres will be the final, and you're gonna go America.
I'm going America, especially since they'll host that second leg in the Azteca. I'm hoping they take advantage of that, and I do think they will. I don't think it'll be easy. Tigres gonna put up a hell of a fight. I hope we get a really entertaining final, but I'm going America.
Fair, man. I'm gonna go Tigres on this one. It'll be fun. One of us will end up being right. And hey, these are the moments that make up our season highlights, bro. You know, the moments of who wins these matches, our predictions. Let's see whether this prediction makes it into your highlights or your lowlights, brother.
You know what's crazy though is that if America don't win this, how are they ever gonna win it? This is the best team that they've had in years, and they've been good. Right? They've been good the last 3-4 years, but they've slowly been getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. I think this is the best team that they've had in a long time. If they can't win it, especially if they have home advantage, man, I don't know what it's going to take. I really don't.
Well, that's the thing. I was hearing someone from the Lads Footy Show, shout out to them, one of their pundits on there was saying that this was the best America, not just the best America team, but this is the best Liga MX team in the last 10 years because of how they perform in the regular season. If they end up winning the championship, does that solidify them as a team of that stature? Best of the last 10 years.
Nah.
Numbers-wise? I don't know.
I guess.
Any-wise, however you want to look at it.
No, the answer is no. Leon 2013. Leon 2014.
Okay.
Don't give me that.
I don't know about Leon.
There's no way that guy's seen Leon play. There's no way he can justifiably say America's the best Liga MX team in the last decade unless he's Leon.
I think it might be the numbers aspect then. It might be the numbers aspect.
Numbers-wise, that would make sense. America garners so many points for the regular season.
Yeah, numbers-wise, it could be there. But hey, I don't know, man. I'm just saying I'm going to go Tigres on this matchup, and we'll find out once we're parting our asses off over in Argentina. And while we're in Argentina this upcoming week, right across the border, there is a
funeral
going on, brother, with one of the most depressing storylines in all of football this year, and honestly of all time, dude. Because we're talking about a team here that spent 111 years in the first division, the club that generated legends of the game such as Pelé and Neymar. Santos has been relegated from the Brazilian league after 111 years in the first division. The scenes that I saw were absolutely incredible in a bad way.
Tragic,
bro.
tragic, dude.
True tragedy. Once Fortaleza went up 1-0 in this game, the man that scored the goal for Santos to tie the match up was called Messias. And immediately upon scoring, he points up, obviously in tribute to Pelé, gives him his respect, but his name being Messias. Yeah. Messiah. I was like, that's ridiculous, bro. What the hell is going on over in Brazil?
Storylines in South American football isn't real.
Oh, yeah.
It's not real.
It's AI, bro. And the game just flames out because Fortaleza scores a second goal on a crazy breakaway. And after that second goal goes in, Santos just, man, the way these people's hearts drop, the looks on their faces, the complete despair they had. Tragedy, pure tragedy on display for a club that honestly has never truly experienced anything of this caliber in their history.
Yeah, it's really sad to see for Santos. I mean, again, such a historic club, a club that has been, that has defined success in Brazil from a club perspective way back, back in the 60s. I understand it. It's tragic, truly. I think only 2 teams now remain. Flamengo and Sao Paulo have never been relegated. Wow. So there's still 2 remaining. Santos just no longer have that streak, essentially. Yeah. But, what's crazy is that, the volatility in Brazil, it's kind of cool. Because, Grêmio got relegated 2 years ago. And before that, Grêmio were going to semifinals and finals in the Copa Libertadores for between 2016 and 2020. It was nothing. And then they get relegated in 2021. Nuts. Palmeiras, who were at the time joint top most successful club alongside Santos with 8 titles, got relegated in the mid-2000s, came back up, got relegated again in 2012, and then came back, and we've seen what they've done since then. So honestly, for Santos, it's just more of a pride thing, which I understand. Yeah. I completely understand. But this happens in Brazil. Yeah. The big teams fall. And finally, it just happened to Santos. Honestly, I won't be surprised if in the next 20 years, Flamengo go eventually down, or, hell, Sao Paulo. It can happen. And Santos just, I don't know what they need to do. Maybe this is a wake-up call to maybe fix their youth system, fix the way the club is run a little bit, possibly. But at the end of the day, I would hate it if I was a fan. I would hate this. But it's not the worst thing in the world considering how volatile the club situation is in Brazil in general. I mean, we saw a 20-point swing with Botafogo going from first to fucking 6 or some shit. I don't even know where they landed, man. But that's how crazy Brazil can be. Santos just got a piece of that.
Yeah, they'll be back.
They'll be back.
And I don't think enough people are talking about that. I think people are focusing in on the tragedy. I don't know what it is about the self-deprecation, but I don't think it's the end of the world, honestly. It's very sad, especially because this year was one that they, in a way, dedicated to Pelé. It was a follow-up year after his death. It was about the memory of it, about what it represented. I think that's what made it worse. That's when this happened. Yeah. But they'll be back, man. I truly do think they'll be back, and they'll be perfectly fine. They'll be contending for Serie A titles once again in Brazil. So I don't doubt any of that. It just is one of those tragic things that in the moment can feel terrible and also look terrible, because a team of 111 years in the first division experiencing this is just so rare, man. And when you think about what's the European equivalent, I saw someone on Twitter say that this is like Real Madrid getting relegated on the very season dedicated to Di Stefano. That's the equivalent, right, of a team with that much stature, that much tenure,
history,
giving themselves to a legend of the game, and then disappointing by getting fucking relegated, man.
Good Lord.
Now you're starting to get it, bro. Now you're starting to get it, bro. It's dark.
Sure. It's dark. It's dark. Sure. Footballing wise, they'll be okay. But though, Palmeiras winning their 12th title this season, their 12th, and you look at the list of clubs who have won in Brazil and how many they've won, Palmeiras are creating a bit of a gap here.
Where are they at? Actually, I haven't checked that.
They have 12 titles, right? They just won their 12th. The next closest club has 8.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And they've... So...
oh, no.
Yeah, and Palmeiras honestly don't look like they're slowing down. Their youth system is incredible. They have probably the best coach in South America, Abel Ferreira. Looking really good if you're Palmeiras. And they've won 4 of them in the last 8 years. pretty incredible. And they almost won another one in between. They could have had 5 and 8. There was runners-up one of those years. And so they've had 4 titles in the modern era. They might get a couple more in like... are the other teams going to catch up? Are we seeing the beginning of the gap being created in Brazil?
It could be because the way that they're starting to win these titles, I think, is very notable.
Yeah.
I mean this in the kindest, most sincere, and almost as a compliment. They robbed a title this year.
They robbed it.
Palmeiras robbed it.
Yeah.
And but not in a negative way.
No.
I promise. I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm saying like they like put on like a ninja costume, went into like an expensive museum, went late at night, got the fucking trophy and took it out and ran with it and got away with it successfully. Like I give them credit for what they did.
It's impressive.
But it's insane. I think it says a lot about the fact that the team that was able to pounce upon Botafogo's complete and utter bottle job was Palmeiras. And that's considering that teams like Flamengo,
I know, they were
Grêmio,
right there too.
Atlético Mineiro all had as equal of an opportunity to do the same exact thing. The fact the Plinko chip fell on fucking Palmeiras, I think is a sign of where they are now mentally as a club. They're becoming that team in Brazil. And now that you're telling me about this gap, I'm not even surprised, bro. I'm not even surprised because I think it's similar to what I'm seeing with Tigres right now. The way they robbed the title last year, coming back from 2-0 and just winning it like nothing. Back in the final once again, hopefully. This is that championship grit, that championship mentality on full display. And Palmeiras, bro, Endrick getting his second Brazilian title already with this team at such a young age. This team is something else, man.
There's something else. They have such good role players. The main starters that they have are so good. They're so stout. They have so much grit and talent. And then, of course, every 2 years, they seem to be producing the next best thing. Palmeiras really are so well run. And they have Albert Ferreira, Portuguese coach who only wins with Palmeiras, essentially. And he has like a really good opportunity here to basically be like the Pep Guardiola of South America specifically. He has an insane, like out of all the coaches who coach River Plate, Boca Juniors, any other Brazilian team, he could really create like true tenure in a continent where it is tough to keep your job as a coach. Ferreira might be the first guy to do it and actually like build a dynasty as a coach with one club.
Yeah, man, he got close. In what was considered a down year for them in the Copa Lib, they still made the fucking semifinals and lost by a very close margin to Boca Juniors. Like this Palmeiras team, I think they're going to continue their line of success, and behind Ferreira's ability to just manage these teams, they're gonna continue to see that success, bro. So congratulations to Palmeiras. If any Palmeiras fans watch us or follow us, congratulations on your 12th title, a robbed title, but in the best possible way. The Copa America drawing was today, as the USA is set to host this massive tournament in anticipation and in build up to the 2026 FIFA World Cup. We have the Copa America, baby. The Copa America is here and the draw has finally been completed. We have all 4 groups set. And now I don't want to do a deep dive of these groups. I want to say that for when the tournament comes and we produce our deep dive content that we're so well known for. But I do kind of just want to quickly react surface level to each single one of these groups. So to start, let's talk about Group A, which has Argentina, Peru, Chile, and then either Canada or Trinidad and Tobago.
I really can't write this shit up, bro. Argentina once again get the easiest fucking group in a major tournament, man. I mean, Chile and Peru are in their darkest times.
Control yourself, brother. We're about to go there. We're about to go there. Control yourself, brother. Control yourself.
Dark period for both of those teams. Yeah. Those are easy wins for Argentina. And then what is it?
Then either Canada or Trinidad and Tobago.
Canada's
really good teams, man. It's a really good Trinidad team, bro. Maybe that evens it out.
What's crazy, Trinidad might be Canada. I don't trust this Canadian team whatsoever. If Trinidad get there, then congratulations. It'll be 90 minutes of 2 blocks of 5. But that's what's going to happen even if they play Canada, because Canada cannot figure themselves out right now. For me, easiest group in the Copa America by far.
Yeah, and look, I've never once, said that there's any sort of conspiracy in the World Cup for Argentina specifically. I've always given them the credit for winning that tournament. I've never been one of those people. All I'm saying is that this is like the draw equivalent of penalty for Argentina, which was such a famous slogan throughout the World Cup. Yeah. This is like the draw equivalent. where they just got handed a very easy title. I'm not saying it was deliberate. I'm not saying it's conspiracy or anything crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm just saying, damn, they got a lucky ass draw here with yet another good draw that doesn't even challenge them one bit. I think they're going to leave this group feeling super confident with 3 straight victories. Anything else is a disappointment.
Yep.
Group B contains my beautiful Mexico, Ecuador, Venezuela, and Jamaica.
This, I think, is going to be a really fun one. I mean, Jamaica, I hope they show up. That's literally all I can say. If they do, they'll make it a little bit trickier. I think Venezuela have been playing really good right now, and they usually actually show up in Copa America. So I think Venezuela will make this group really fun. As for Ecuador, I think they're on the rise. They're trying to do something special, especially what they built in the 2022 cycle with their new coach and all of their young players. I think Ecuador is going to be really exciting to watch. And Mexico here, basically having home advantage at every stadium they play at, have a really good opportunity to perform in what is a tricky but doable group, I'd say.
Yeah, with groups like these, I actually, from an entertainment point of view, prefer a group like this to what many people call like a group of death, for example. I think group of deaths can be overrated sometimes and might not live up to that billing, whereas a competitive group where there's a genuine argument that any of these 4 teams could somehow find a way to qualify out of it, that to me is the best setup for what is going to be a really entertaining group stage. Mexico, Ecuador, Venezuela, Jamaica, if any of these teams feel like qualifying, they genuinely have a shot at doing it, man, because what I like so much is that every single matchup, whether it's Mexico, Venezuela, Ecuador, Jamaica, they all have some sort of competitiveness to them. There's not a single one that you just know outright, oh, they're going to win or this team is going to dominate the other. It's so close overall that I just think it's going to be super entertaining, but also really fucking stressful from a Mexico perspective, because every single game, in my opinion, is going to be very, very tight unless we just dominate Jamaica the way we did in the Gold Cup. And then we have Group C.
Group C.
Which is being built as the group of death.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
I think rightfully so. I would say it is the most difficult group here.
With the United States.
Best team in CONCACAF.
Edit that out. Uruguay, Panama, and Bolivia.
Yeah.
Your reaction?
Yeah, Bolivia. Okay, we can hopefully chalk those guys out. They tend to not really show up for Copa Americas or World Cup qualifiers, so I'll go ahead and say the same thing here. But Uruguay, one of the best teams in CONMEBOL for sure, right underneath Argentina and Brazil, although I do think the United States can take them. Yeah. It's going to be a very tight match. I do think we can take them. And for Panama, I'd say the second most informed team in CONCACAF. Maybe not the second best, but informed. They've been playing so well over the last 8 months. I'm a little frustrated that they got drawn this group because I was hoping Panama would have a really, really good chance here. But if I'm going based off of who I think would go through just reaction-wise, I would say the USA and Uruguay. But, bro, Panama have a crazy chance here to do something crazy. And at the expense of either the USA or Uruguay.
That's the thing.
And something's going to have to give. And it might be Panama giving, or it might be Uruguay or USA. Who knows? But this group could get really crazy.
Yeah, starting with Bolivia, the highest elevation I'm seeing for them is when they play at AT&T Stadium. That's the highest.
That's it.
That's going to be against United States, because elsewhere they're playing at MetLife and then Orlando. I don't know if those have higher elevations than AT&T Stadium, but for the most part, I think that will be the best shot of them getting any single point in this match against the USA in Dallas. For Panama, man, this is so harsh.
It's harsh.
Especially given the way they qualified into Copa America, just completely dominating Costa Rica in the quarterfinal that we just saw. They're the team that deserved to be in that first pot for CONCACAF, representing them alongside the United States and not Mexico. But Mexico just got lucky with that. I guess that selection that gave them that advantage. So Panama gets thrown into this group where they're going to have to work so hard to get out. The thing is, if they put in that work, if they show the way that we've been seeing them, if they can continue the pace that they are at, I think they get out. I don't know how, but I think they get out of this group. I really do.
Yeah, it's one of those.
That's all I'll say about that.
It's one of those where you say all 3 teams get out. You just don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just can't pick 2. Absolutely. It sucks. I mean, you can, but I again, it's just 3 games, and especially since Panama play Uruguay first, Maybe they can get it out of the way, get a draw.
Yeah.
And if they can get anything against Uruguay, immediately the group becomes very interesting.
Yeah.
Because then we'll see a desperate Panama or a desperate Uruguay play against a United States, and that might fall to the United States in some regard. This group could get really, really crazy, or it just might be really straightforward if Panama get nervous.
That too, but the first game will be in Miami when they face off against Uruguay. That's a place that's packed with Panamanians, so anything positive there could help them a lot. And as for Uruguay, the next team up, they're the most informed South American team right now.
Yeah.
Right now, because Argentina lost a match, I believe, to Uruguay, and then Brazil has lost a number of matches consecutively. Uruguay is the best team in South America right now. Obviously, this tournament's still half a year away. I think it's very notable what Marcelo Bielsa is doing right now with this Uruguayan squad, implementing his philosophy, his tactics, and his strategy into this Uruguayan team that is completely just absorbed his knowledge and applied it onto the pitch and is playing some wonderful, wonderful football. They're a threat, bro. They're a threat not just to get out of this group, but to win the title, honestly, if they can continue playing at this level. And as for the USA, bro, we've talked about it so many times on this podcast, what they are capable of, the generation that they're in right now, the best USA crop of talent that we've ever seen get put together. I want to see them show up. I want to see them put on an absolute show that garners the attention of the rest of the Americans here in the United States and makes them want to watch the 2026 World Cup. This is where that journey starts. This is the biggest test for Greg Berhalter. And man, it's a hell of a test, bro. It's a hell of a test. But if they pass it, we could see them embark on a very, very special run, getting out of the group of death, something that they're no strangers to because they've done it in the past in bigger tournaments.
That's the thing is, we all ask for a test for the United States because that's the only way that they set themselves up to have a very successful 2026 World Cup. And holy shit, did we really get the test, man.
Yeah.
We really got it here. We got what we asked for. And the more that I think about it, actually, the more happy I am we got this group. I'd rather we go through Uruguay and a feisty Panama and be really prepared for a hell of a quarterfinal and semifinal, hopefully. I'd rather that. And because if we can get out of this group, then I know that we're at least prepared and we're ready for anything. So I relish this opportunity. Let's fucking go USA.
And lastly, Group D contains Brazil, Colombia, Paraguay, and then either Honduras or Costa Rica.
Yeah, I think this is actually kind of a fun group. Once again, it's kind of like Mexico's group, except Brazil, obviously, maybe a tier higher than any team in Mexico's group for sure. But the rest of it, honestly, I'd say is pretty open for second spot, man. Paraguay could show up. I think they just really haven't found their form, but maybe they show up for just this one tournament for the Copa America and build towards a more successful 2026 campaign. Honduras showed against Mexico that they can play. They can truly play, and this will be their perfect opportunity if they could beat Costa Rica to build themselves, do what Jamaica's trying to do, get some consistency going. This would be the perfect opportunity. But like Honduras, honestly, going into the quarterfinals of the CONCACAF Nations League, we're not expected to be here. But now they have a really good opportunity to get an insane dress rehearsal for the rest of their World Cup qualifying campaign. They need to beat Costa Rica, and I think they can have a decent try here in this group. And as for Colombia, well, they're just like Uruguay, are in very good form, and honestly, I think could actually rival Brazil's top spot.
Damn, that's crazy, man. But man, I just wonder which Brazilian team will get. That's the thing. You just never know with Brazil. If they show up playing the way that they have so far, this could be one of the most dramatic Brazilian performances we see at a major tournament, because that's just not something they do. They don't struggle in these tournaments, at least in those early stages. It doesn't happen until the quarterfinals or semifinals or even the final. Brazil is a championship contending squad. If they do anything that goes against that, it'll be an absolute shock, and I think it'd just be crazy to see that. Or on the other hand, we just might see a version of Brazil that is historic. The reason that they are the most decorated side in this tournament show up and put on an absolute show. Colombia, I think, is a dark horse in this tournament, because Uruguay it's apparent that they're good now. They've proven it time and time again now in the World Cup qualifiers, and I think it's obvious that they're a top 4 team. Colombia, I think, is right on the fringe. They're like a 5th or 6th team in the Americas right now, but we might see them put put on an absolute show, start dancing the way they did in 2014, and rise to the top, getting out of this really strong group, and then going on to make a really good run. Paraguay, we don't know yet. I really don't think we know yet. Julio Enciso has been out the entire World Cup qualifying campaign, and I'm not saying his impact would completely change Paraguay, but I think that's an important player that starts for them every single game. If he gets back into form, if he gets healthy again, by that point, what impact can he have? And then lastly, Honduras or Costa Rica. You spoke about Honduras. I'll highlight Costa Rica then, because Costa Rica's known. Costa Rica's known for getting into these tournaments when they don't deserve to, bro.
I know,
three straight World Cup appearances when I thought they only should have qualified for one of them, bro. That's crazy. As one of the top 32 teams in the world back to back times, I'm just saying, I'm not going to rule out the idea of them getting through on a one-off game against Honduras happening in March, bro. I'm just saying, give them some credit, because they could find themselves in this tournament once again.
Absolutely. But Honduras, the way they played, the players that they have, if they lose to Costa Rica, then that's on Honduras, man. I wouldn't want them in this tournament if they lose to this Costa Rica.
I agree. I agree. I want Honduras. I'm with you there. I want Honduras, but you just never know with Costa Rica, bro.
Yeah, you really don't, especially against a Central American rival. Maybe they get a little bit of, they put a little pride into it, They try to really get into it. But, one thing that I noticed watching the draw, dude, is I like CONCACAF's involvement in the Copa America more so than just CONMEBOL, because it adds the wild card. Dude, I'm actually even excited about Mexico, even though they've been playing so inconsistently lately. I'm excited to see what they can do on the biggest American stage, North and South America together. I think it just serves for a better tournament, a more exciting one. I'd be down to do this exact same thing, but down in South America. We don't always have to do it here when we involve CONCACAF teams. I wonder if CONMEBOL is even at all interested in something like that, because, the last Copa America, it was 2 groups of 5. That's weird. Sucked.
Yeah.
It was just like, all right, yeah, we know who's going through out of these 2 huge ass groups. We know who's going to finish at the bottom, but there's true uncertainty in some fashion in every single group. That's so much more exciting. And so, yeah, the CONCACAF involvement here, especially with how good the USA is doing and how Panama and the wild card Mexico could be, I just think it adds for way more entertainment and chaos.
I just that constant threat of, what if a CONCACAF team wins the title? That little sliver of hope, that little thread it poses, I think just adds a layer to this tournament that can make anybody just interested right off the bat. CONMEBOL has won this tournament time and time again because it is their regional tournament. It is what they celebrate. It is what they do. They involve CONCACAF, and they've done it in the past, and the deepest CONCACAF has ever gone, I think, is to the semifinals, perhaps maybe a finals appearance by Mexico, I think, at one point. But regardless, CONCACAF has never been able to take advantage of that invitation so far. But the fact that could become more of a possibility as the years progress and these CONCACAF teams get better over time, I like that, man. I really do. And just the idea of one day seeing a CONCACAF team lift up a CONMEBOL specific trophy, I think it would be crazy scenes, man. Crazy scenes. Just maybe not good for the economy of these South American sides, and just crazy scenes and reactions all across the world seeing a CONCACAF team win this trophy. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying, though, it is a crazy possibility.
Gives me goosebumps, man. Yeah. Imagine any CONCACAF team. That's my dream. Yeah. That is a true dream, to lift the Copa America as a CONCACAF side. That would be nuts. And for either USA or Mexico to be the first to do it, it means so much, bro. Yeah,
so we're not going to get into the rest of our predictions here, or seeing out this whole tournament. I want to wait till when the tournament arrives, and then in the build up to that tournament, really posting our previews, posting our ideas as we just do our deepest research we can possible in anticipation to what is going to be, personally, my preference, my favorite summer tournament in the international stage. Now, that goes without saying, though. We will not be neglecting the Euros. If anything, we will be in both Europe and the Americas at the same time, watching these games back to back on the same day when the time arrives. Live streams and so much content. Look out for that.
God bless time zones.
God bless them, bro. Because we have ourselves another major international tournament with the Euros arriving in Germany specifically, starting with Group A, where the hosts, Germany, are being paired up alongside Scotland, Hungary, and Switzerland.
Yeah, this group really stood out to me because Scotland are in decent form right now, but Hungary's in insane form right now. And Germany's still trying to find out their rhythm. Their record, they're like last 10 games, they've lost 6 of them. It's ridiculous how poor Germany have been in friendlies. So for Germany, this won't be easy. Scotland, it depends on if they can really show up, but if they do, I think this makes it for a really entertaining and tricky group.
Dude, absolutely, because you also have Hungary, Dominic Szoboszlai playing on top of the world right now. Yeah. And then for Scotland, guys like John McGinn, Scott McTominay, Andy Robertson leading this team. And they've been playing so well, having what I think was one of their best European qualification performances in their history to make it into this tournament. This team is really good. And then you throw in a wild card like Switzerland, who was just at the World Cup round of 16 just a year ago. Yeah. It's a strong team as well. So all I would recommend the viewers is to keep an eye on Hungary. Because this is one of the two European teams that I've been wanting to highlight for you for a while now. Haven't seen them play time and time again. This Hungary team is so hungry. They are so cohesive. The way they play has just a very distinct style of fluidity to it. They have stars, and then they also have just really reliable players that know their roles to a very good level, making a very, very strong Hungarian side. One that this is the most excited I've been for a Hungary squad, I think, ever. So please keep an eye on them, because I do think they have something special cooking.
Their offensive fluidity is what really stands out to me when I see them, and they're just so entertaining to watch. As you said, it doesn't really matter who's on the ball. They know each other so well. They have such good chemistry as a team that they just find the balls. They put in the right pass. They have the right dribble. And then, of course, you have these starmen and Szoboszlai, who's absolutely world class, comes together to make a very good, cohesive team. Hungary's the team to watch for me as far as complete underdog with no recent histories being successful, man. Yeah. So Hungary's super exciting to watch in that regard. For me, Switzerland, I think they're finally on some sort of downturn. Their qualification for this tournament was pretty lackluster, in my opinion, in regards to how they've done it in the past. And I still think they'll be a tough team, though. But I do think that Switzerland won't be as successful as they have been at World Cups and in Euros over the last 8 years.
Group B has Spain, Croatia, Italy, and Albania. And so just looking at it on paper, the three teams that would stand out to you obviously would be Spain, a historic side, Croatia, who has been on 2 back-to-back deep runs in the World Cup, and then Italy, who, despite not making the World Cup, can go on to win the fucking Euros as they did just the last tournament. No. But then you have a very interesting wild card here in Albania.
They're in pretty good form right now. And honestly, they have some pretty good pieces going forward for them. They have a really good coach, too. I like Albania. Whether they can get out of this group, I think is going to be really tough. That's the question. But I think they can try. They won't be pushovers whatsoever. And I think they're going to give it a good go. And it actually helps them, though, because, we think of Croatia as a really, really good team who's done so well in back-to-back World Cups. But just like Switzerland, I think Croatia's finally on an actual decline, and I don't see them having a good Euros this year. Spain's interesting because they have a lot to work on, but they're also so talented. I see them as having a decent Euros.
Then Italy, who barely got through, bro. Barely.
That's what's crazy is that Italy have so many good players, and going into the last Euros, they were not touted to be title contenders, but they just got hot. They got so hot. I just don't see Italy doing the same thing. There's no way, but they have talented players. Chiesa, for example, obviously, but I don't know. I would say it leaves room open for Albania to have a surprise second place finish.
Yeah, I think for Italy, the reason I don't see them as contenders this year is because I think what played a big role for them in their past Euros run where they went on to win it was the presence of their veterans who showcase themselves as just absolute experienced winners in that tournament. Guys like Chiellini, Bonucci, for example. Yeah. And then you have an informed Verratti, for example, who isn't even playing now in Europe, who went over to Saudi Arabia, I believe, or maybe somewhere Asian. Yeah. I think they've lost a number of pieces all across the pitch that I think will impact them in terms of being title contenders. Can they make it out of the group? Sure. They have that talent. They got that Italian pizzazz, if you will. They have the quality to do it. But to win the title this year, I don't see it for them at all. For Spain, I think I do. And for Croatia, I agree. I think they're on a downturn. So that leaves room because you can be a really strong third place side and still qualify into the next round. So Albania has a shot, bro. They have a shot. And so their fans that they've shown time and time again throughout this European qualification cycle that I know show up and put on these crazy atmospheres, they should feel hopeful because it's not completely ruled out given the history that these three names carry. Group C has Slovenia, Denmark, Serbia, and England.
Yeah, this group for me was pretty lackluster. It's just, for me, it's one shining star, England. They should top this group. I think it'd be a failure if they didn't. I still have scars of Serbia from last World Cup. Such a disappointment. I know they have good players. I know they're a good team. Maybe they can make amends here and have a decent tournament. I still see them as just as a good side, above average for sure, but I just don't know if I see them as a great side, a side that can actually make a deep run. And then for Slovenia, I mean, they're just average. I say they're an average European side. They're not below average. That's why they're here. They can still compete. I don't really see them doing anything either. And then Denmark, kind of the same thing as Serbia. Scars from last year where they were supposed to do so well and didn't. And I don't know if they've actually found that same magical form that they found like a year and a half ago. I don't think they found it. For me, Denmark, Slovenia, Serbia are all solid teams, but nothing more.
Yeah, England's topping this group for me. Our most viewed video on YouTube is the video where we made a preview of Serbia. And I've been getting railed on that video for years because of how positively I spoke about Serbia and what I thought they would do, which was, to remind the people, a semifinal appearance at the 2022 FIFA World Cup. I got it completely and utterly and absolutely wrong. I'm not ever going to give them my confidence again until they can prove me wrong otherwise. So Serbia, I'm not even looking at them. Denmark is similar, but I think they're still better overall as a team. I'm actually going to put stock in Slovenia on this one because I think they had a good qualification cycle overall. Jan Oblak, why not put some trust in him, man? Your go-to guy for trust, him at Atletico. And I think it's just a fight for second place here. I'm not saying any of these teams go on a crazy run in the tournament, but who's going to get second? I think it's between Slovenia and Denmark. And I'm actually going to go with Slovenia having a little bit of a special run here in their first Euros appearance in, I think, like 24 years or something.
Yeah, it's open. That second spot is wide open in my opinion.
Group D has the Netherlands, Austria, France, and then the winner of Path A, which is between Wales, Finland, Poland, or Estonia.
This group, along with Group A, really stood out to me, man, because Netherlands, France, Austria, all three of those teams can honestly probably even top the group. So this makes for basically what could be the group of death, or at least maybe the most competitive group. Austria, as you've highlighted over the last couple of months, are in such good form. They've been on the rise for the last year, I'd say, especially. And then for France, well, obviously, you know, they're the royalty of Europe, have some of the best talent in all of the world. So for France, they're definitely looking to have a very deep run here. But I think this group is going to be pretty tricky, dude.
Tricky, man. This might be one... Fuck. I was going to say this might be the group where the third place team qualifies through because they're all so good. But when it's this tight, I mean, oh man, that's so hard to gauge. The Netherlands is so good right now. I think they're on a rise with how they've been competing lately and
they're such
the
good
talent
players.
they have. France, I think, is the best team, second best team in the world when they're on it. The best team in Europe for sure. Then Austria, I think, is similar to Hungary, such a good team overall with what I believe I counted was 6 out of 11 of their starters playing in the Bundesliga and like 5 of them at one point playing for the same RB Leipzig team. Yeah. Like they had this weird unity because they all just know how to be on the same page. That Austrian gene gets activated when they all play together and it makes for some really strong football. So you throw in the wild card of whether it's Wales, Finland, Poland, or Estonia, maybe just causing some trouble here. This is a tough group, bro. And probably the group of death so far with the quality that all these teams are capable of reaching. Group E has Belgium, Slovakia, and Romania, plus the winner of the Path B qualifying path, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Ukraine, Israel, or Iceland.
Belgium, again, kind of similar to like Denmark, to Serbia. They just have really disappointed with the amount of talent that they have, and they're kind of like in a transitionary period with a couple of their players kind of being phased out or still there, but maybe not putting in the best performances. I wonder what Belgium team is really going to show up for the Euros. I really do wonder, because the thing is, the talent that they still do have, it's excellent, and it could be that of a dark horse. Maybe not the same way it has been over the last 8 years, but Belgium still has some quality players. Can I really trust them, though? That's kind of how I am with Belgium going into this tournament. For the other teams, I think it's wide open. I see all of them as, once again, just very good, solid, average European teams that can finish second, but probably won't make it past the next stage.
Yeah, pretty crazy Romania's here, man. Slovakia too.
Yeah.
There's some crazy names that I'm seeing.
That's the thing. Like Slovakia, Romania, and let's say Ukraine make it. They're all good teams, but they all lack heavily in certain departments, whether it's like in the finishing category or dribble penetration or just creativity overall. And that's what makes them really average is they play the game very well, but nothing makes them stand out. Nothing makes them different. For example, like when you look at Hungary and Austria, there's something special about those teams where there's something special about those teams that allows them to get a tremendous amount of wins. But for these teams, it's just win, and then you lose a couple too. They're average. They're good, but they're nothing more than that.
Yeah, Belgium with a pretty easy draw, honestly.
Yeah.
Group F has Turkey, Portugal, Czech Republic, and the winner of playoff Path C, which contains Georgia, Luxembourg, Greece, or Kazakhstan.
I see the playoff winners alongside Czechia as average European teams. I don't see them doing anything special. They have some solid players, sure. Turkey's interesting.
Yeah.
Turkey's really interesting. But what's funny is that in Euro 2020, they went into that tournament as the dark horse because they were in such good form, and they flopped.
Yeah.
What's interesting, though, is that I think with the resurgence of Galatasaray, I actually think this Turkey team will do so much better and will actually fulfill any sort of dark horse role that might be applied to them. This Turkish team actually qualified in style, in my opinion. I thought they did really, really well. If they lose form all of a sudden, then we could never trust a Turkey team for the next 100 years. There's no way that they have as bad of a tournament that they did 4 years ago. There's just no way. So I think Turkey could make this really interesting. And for Portugal, this is an opportunity for them to really go at it, really plan to make a deep run because as it was a year ago going to the World Cup, this is one of the most stacked teams talent-wise in Europe.
Yeah, I think for Turkey, the way they qualified was in style. The numbers were insane. I was keeping track of it. They played great football. But not just the Euro 2020 debacle that happened. They were contenders to potentially make it into the World Cup in 2022 when they lost out to Portugal in the playoff path in what was a very, very tightly contested game where I think they had it tied until like the very last 10 minutes, almost pushing Portugal out of the World Cup as a whole.
I remember
So that's crazy that they're in the same group together. But I think this very easily puts them as the second team to get out of here if they play up to their level. And I think they will because the rest of the teams I'm seeing as, Czech Republic or any of these playoff winners, I don't see them having the same level as Turkey right now. I agree with you. The Super League is on the rise right now with not just Galatasaray, but Fenerbahce as well as playing really good football. I think this looks really good for Turkey so far to at least get out of the group stage and then from there, hopefully do something magical. Portugal's going to be amazing. I think they're a championship team contender.
Yeah.
And as for the rest, I agree. Pretty average European sides that I don't see doing much damage in this tournament. And that is it for these groups, man. That is it. We have an exciting Euros 2024 that awaits us. We are going to hold off from revealing our predictions for who we think is going to win it as a whole and just seeing the whole tournament out. We will start doing that once the tournament gets closer and we see the lineups, the squads, the players that get called up, who's injured, who's healthy, and all these things. So keep an eye out for our deep dives regarding both Copa America and the Euros because we are going to be posting so much content and the anticipation to these tournaments. But then once the tournaments happen, watch out for our live streams and anything else we might post during the major summer that's coming up. The AFC Champions League.
AFC Champions League, baby.
Is on fire.
Absolutely, man. One of the most entertaining tournaments I've seen in a while, dude. It's so fun to follow. Highly recommend. You can get a subscription on Paramount Plus. We're not even sponsored by them, but please, I highly recommend. It's $5-6 a month, and you get to see Asia's Premier League teams go at it.
And I say it's on fire because Al Faya ends up qualifying to complete the Saudi Arabian dominance in the western region of this tournament. All 4 Saudi teams, all 4 have qualified through to the knockout stages.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that stood out to me about this past Champions League cycle.
Yeah, dude. Al Fayha, they actually qualified in style because they just goaled out.
Yeah.
They got some really good goals. Fashion Sakala Jr. finally found the back of the net more consistently. He's so wasteful at times, but when he's on it, he's so explosive, the Zambian. There's this other player that Al Fayha have, Henry Onyekuru. He's played in Monaco. I think he's actually played in the Premier League. but a bench type of player.
Yeah.
But he's finally found his role here with Alfeja. He's so effective off the dribble. Could have even had more goals and assists if his teammates helped him out. But what's funny about Alfeja's qualification, bro, is that it took Persepolis losing at home. And there was like 70,000 in attendance, by the way. Persepolis losing at home, and they got an early goal to take the lead and lost 2-1. And it also took Al Sadd and Sharjah from the UAE to just botch their chances too. Al Sadd, super disappointing, man, because they have such good talent on their team, and the opponents that they were facing were good too, but Al Sadd should have beaten them because their highs in their matches were so much higher than their opponents, but they couldn't finish. They just couldn't finish. And at the end of the day, they get a draw. And then Sharjah's chance was crazy. They were up 1-0, get a couple of red cards, and they lose the game 2-1 with 2 stoppage time goals.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, they had it.
Damn.
They literally had it in the bag, and they both botched it.
That's sad.
Completely botched it. And who gets in? Alfeja. And honestly, I'm glad that they did because out of those 3 teams, Alfeja probably have the best offense. For Alfeja, it really is their defense. They're pretty leaky. They concede in pretty much every single match. It's what's going to ultimately be their downfall. If they had better Saudi defenders, Alfeja would be just as good as Al Ittihad and close to Al Nasr and Al Hilal.
Well, that's the beauty about them, though, is that their 3 counterparts all have like the foreign players that came in this past summer. Alfeja has been the one team that kind of just stayed stagnant. They're just like, all we have is the Saudi Arabian talent that we, grew here in this region. And so it's kind of beautiful for them to have one like organic Saudi Arabian team and then 3 others that have all that money, have all that power behind them. To see them still show that we don't need that foreign inclusion to get out into the knockout stage, I think is actually pretty impressive from a Saudi Arabian perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And, they still have a couple of decent foreigners that definitely help them through it. But honestly, after the first 3 matches, I did not think they were going to get through.
Nope.
And then all of a sudden, boom, they're through. And actually, I'm really happy. Alongside them, though, Al Ain from the UAE, 15 points out of a possible 18. And the thing is, their only loss, they played an entire B team. They had already qualified, so they just kind of said, fuck it. For Al Ain, though, I definitely consider them as title contenders. They have so much talent in their team. Kaku, ex-New York Red Bull player, he's their playmaker. Then, of course, you have probably the most lethal number 9 so far in this tournament, West and East region, and Kojo Fodo Laba, the Ivorian. He is lethal in front of goal. And then, of course, you have just other really good players from the UAE. Edik, who's a Brazilian UAE naturalized player. Fullback, super creative, kind of like a Marcelo type player. Just, little not as good. And then you have a really good Emirati player, Bandar Al-Ababi, the captain of this side. Super creative, always looks for that through ball pass, and it just makes for a really fluid style of play. Al Ain are in complete form right now, and I see them as definite title contenders.
Yeah, I agree. I've been curious because I had a few fans of Al Ain DM me say that they weren't happy with the random hiring of Hernan Crespo coming into this team to guide them, and then his first Champions League game, he loses it, right? They've been a little questionable about what he's been able to do. Obviously, they did have a B team in hand, and they already qualified for the group. But from what I'm seeing from the fans that we have that follow us, they have shown before that game even happened, just weren't happy with the hiring overall. And I think it's interesting because Crespo has an interesting coaching path that he's been on so far. He doesn't seem to be shaping up as a really strong coaching mind.
Yeah.
And I wonder what he can do with this team that right now is really hot. And I can tell their fans want to make the most out of because it's a very good team that has very good chemistry and has garnered a lot of points so far in the AFC Champions League. They need to continue that role, though. And I just don't want a guy like Crespo getting in the way of that.
That's so funny because when I saw Crespo on the sidelines, I was like, I didn't see him being tied to such a talented team.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So I definitely get it.
Underqualified.
He might be underqualified.
It might be. But the name is doing him a favor here by getting him the job. Just something to keep an eye on.
I'm hoping he really just lets the players play. Maybe he employs a couple of his ideas, but the talent that this Al Ain side has, I would say it's right up there with Al Nassr and Al Hilal. I'm hoping they can really tap into that, because if they do,
crazy.
Al Ain can do something special this year.
Crazy.
Going on to Group B, that's the group that had both Al Sadd and Al Sharjah just completely botch their chances of qualifying. So we only see one team go through, and that's Uzbekistani side Nasaf. One thing I really like about Nasaf is that they're just a collective, man. Not a single player honestly really stands out, but it's actually why they're so good. Every single player on this team has a very specific role. They're very physical, and they just play really good football, man. Honestly, it reminds me of like Japanese football, where it's kind of positionless. Everyone just has a really good first touch. They know what to do on and off the ball, and together they're very cohesive. They have very good chemistry. I truly do think Nasaf can beat any team on the day, any team, even an Al Hilal, even an Al Nassr. Where it gets tricky is at his two legs. I think that's where it gets really, really tricky for this type of team. I think they could be a type of team that pulls off one upset, but to get to a final, you need three. I'm really curious to see what this Nasaf side can do. They play such progressive football. I'm happy that they were able to top their group, because they absolutely deserve it. And yeah, I think they're going to be a tough team to beat. And if they don't play a Saudi team, or they play Al Fayha, or not Al Ain, they can win. They can beat any other team that's not like elite, essentially.
Shit, so there's just one other team then. Or two, because we had two Uzbekistan teams qualify, right? Not Nasaf, and then an Iranian side as well qualifying through. And that sums up the whole country list so far. 4 Saudi Arabian teams, 1 UAE, 2 Uzbekistan, 1 Iranian. Who's the other Uzbekistan team?
The other Uzbekistan team, Navbahor. I really like this team. They're in the same group as Al Hilal. They got a draw 1-1 in the very first group match in Saudi Arabia. Then they got a little cooked in the reverse match. Oh yeah, it was actually Neymar. Was there. It was my first Neymar Al Hilal game. Navbahor is so good. Very similar to Nasaf in the sense that every single player is just very good on the ball. They have a very specific role. But for me, what separates Navbahor from Nasaf, they have this winger, number 7, Austin Uronov. He's probably the most informed winger positionally, I say, in the Western region. When he plays well, Navbahor win. And that's what I really like about Navbahor, is that they actually have a guy that truly stands out. He's having his breakout year this year. He just got called up to the Uzbekistan national team as well. And he's really good, man. Highly recommend watching him play. If he's healthy, if he's starting for Navbahor, that only increases their chances. And like Nasaf, they can beat any team on any given day. Over 2 legs, it'll be tricky, but I think they could beat Al Ittihad. I think they could beat Al Fayha. Al Ain and Al Nassr, Al Hilal, that's where it gets tricky, but Navbahor is a very, very good team. Do not sleep on them. Following up Navbahor, if we go to Group C, we have Al Ittihad topping the group, but then alongside them in second place, as one of the better second place finishers, Sepahan from Iran. Al Ittihad, the reigning Saudi Arabian champions, having a pretty good campaign here. Honestly, wasn't really troubled. The last game against Sepahan was really intriguing. It was a fantastic match. Both teams really going at each other. Al Ittihad getting the best of Sepahan at home in Saudi Arabia, 2-1. And Al Ittihad honestly look pretty good, I think a lot of their success is going to completely rely on their foreigners. Is Benzema going to be healthy? That's a big question. Is N'Golo Kante going to be healthy? Igor Coronado? If those guys are healthy, I think Al Ittihad can be very successful in the Champions League. If not, I really don't see them doing much. For Sepahan, though, probably my favorite team in the AFC stylistically right now, dude. I love the way that this team plays. And what's funny, I've never liked an Iranian club before. Never. Persepolis has always been the shining beacon for Iranian club football. I've never been impressed, even though they've made finals. But this Sepahan team plays football just the way I like it, man. They have a journeyman coach, Portuguese, Jose Moraes, and he has these guys running, man. Completely drilled, super organized. And they have probably one of my most favorite AFC players right now. Right back, where's the number 9? Ramin Rezayan. What's funny is that you've seen him before if you watch both the 2018 and 2022 World Cups. He actually scored a goal in this last World Cup against Wales.
Wow.
And he is in the form of his life right now. He just bombs up and down the pitch for Sepahan. And the biggest thing I love about Sepahan is they have one thing in mind: get the ball back as quickly as possible and then go. And it's funny because before they even get the ball back, Rezayan on the right hand of the pitch, he's already down. He's already down the field. He's just ready to run. He's like a gazelle, man. Probably the most athletic fullbacks in Asia right now. But not only that, dude, he's really good on the ball. He sends in wicked crosses. He got a really good header goal against Al Ittihad to equalize it 1-1. He's fantastic, man. And so this Sepahan team is super offensive, very progressive. They're super fun to watch. So if you're trying to look for a team in Asia to just watch out for, I think Sepahan's definitely a dark horse in that regard.
What's the knockout draw?
I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I'll be looking at it, man.
I think these matchups are becoming more and more important, bro.
Yes, bro. Like, honestly, this next stage, this round of 16 is going to be pretty crazy in the Western region of AFC football. And then just to round it out, obviously Al Hilal and Al Nasser, the two best teams in the AFC for me. I think just straight up, they have the most talent. They're also one of the most decorated when you look at Al Hilal. And I see them both as heavy title contenders this season. They both dominated their groups.
Yes, absolutely. Al Hilal and Al Nassr, the biggest teams in the region so far in terms of popularity, I would say now, with the insane rise they've had with what happened this past offseason. And, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo coming to Saudi Arabia. I'm interested to see how these teams perform once there's actual pressure. Yeah. That's my biggest question for both of them, because now the eyes that are going to be on these matches are going to be more than ever. This is the biggest AFC Champions League that's ever occurred in history, arguably because of just how many viewers are going to be watching now, how many people have interest in what's going on. What happens then once that pressure is fully on? Do we see Al Nassr step up with Cristiano Ronaldo going back to his championship winning ways? Do we see Al Hilal playing as the best team in Saudi Arabia as they have started off the season, continuing that going into the knockout stages? What do we see? That's the storyline for me regarding the biggest clubs, because man, people are going to be watching these games, and it's going to be dope to have an AFC Champions League this high stakes.
Oh yeah, and to go off of, champions like Al Hilal, the reigning champion Urawa Red Diamonds just got eliminated this week as well. And what ended up being a terrible performance against Hanoi, Vietnamese side. And yeah, I mean, I watched the whole game, and Urawa could not get any sort of fluidity going offensively. They couldn't create anything. Hanoi stayed strong. They were able to match them and even go at them a couple of times. Sure, Urawa had a lot of the ball, but pretty much zero creativity, zero penetration, and the result of that is they don't even get out of the group stage, bro. So the reigning champions have fallen. There will be a new champion in this edition of the AFC Champions League. And just to finish, this is the Western region, which finished this week. The Eastern, the rest of the Eastern region will finish next week. We won't be here, so look for the Eastern region analysis or coverage when we get back in January.
We have the 2023 Club World Cup that awaits us this upcoming week, with 7 teams duking it out for the best team in the world title. You have Al Ittihad representing Saudi Arabia as the host. You have Auckland City, the Oceania Giants that have been partaking in this tournament for a long time now. Al Ali, Egyptian side, winners of the CAF Champions League. Mexican side, Leon. Japanese team, Urawa Red Diamonds, winner of the AFC Champions League. Brazilian side, Fluminense, winners of the Copa Libertadores. And finally, European royalty and Manchester City, winners of the UEFA Champions League. The first matchup will be between Al Ittihad and Auckland City. Al Ittihad, who coming into this tournament were the winners of the Saudi Pro League just last year and were selected as a team to represent Saudi Arabia as host. They currently sit in 4th place in the Saudi Pro League, and as we already mentioned, they finished in first in their AFC Champions League group stage to go on to the knockout stages. The players here and the names are really, really interesting and are what make this team so fascinating to keep an eye on throughout this whole tournament, because they have a very good tactician and Marcelo Gallardo leading this team.
And then just joined them
too. And then big names such as Igor Coronado, who has 5 goals and 5 assists already in the Saudi Pro League. Karim Benzema, 9 goals, 4 assists. N'Golo Kante, if he's healthy, will be a massive part of their midfield. Fabinho, bro. Fabinho. Amdallah, who has 7 goals and 2 assists in the Saudi Pro League as well. Brazilian Luis Felipe. Mohamed Sharahili. This team has some names to him, bro. And it's a team that I do think could pose a threat if they can find a way to really amplify the talent that they have to maximize it in a way that actually showcases itself on the pitch, bro. Because the names are there, but is the chemistry fully there to guide them towards a deep FIFA Club World Cup run?
Yeah, and you add in the idea that Al Ittihad actually have pretty good Saudi Arabian talent alongside those foreigners. If they can really work together, Al Ittihad is a championship winning side, as they proved last year. They're very, very good. It's just a matter of getting them to tick. I want to highlight a couple of Saudi Arabian players because they do have some pretty good talent. Al Amri's alongside Hamdallah, very good forward type of player. In the midfield of Al Ghamdi. And then they have these 2 really young players. They're left back. Zakaria Al Hawsawi. I think he's like 22 years old or something like that. And he very forward going fullback. And then on the right wing, they have this 19-year-old Saudi Arabian player, Al Sahafi. And he's got a lot of pace. His talent's a little raw, but he's got a lot to give, and I think this is a perfect opportunity for him to, play against some really good teams here, but also try to get the cohesion of Al Ittihad, to try to improve the cohesion of Al Ittihad, because, yeah, I think their biggest problem is getting them to really play together, because they haven't been that good this season.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're going to face off against a team that has been here time and time again, a team full of experience, a team that is full of champions. This is Auckland City we're talking about, winners of the OFC Champions League region, the Real Madrid of the Oceania region, as they've won this title time and time again. Currently sitting in 2nd place in the National League Championship and on a 3-game losing streak, which I think is notable for where they sit right now.
No, they just lost the final.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they just lost the final 2-0. To get here, they actually had to go to extra time against Suva FC, Fijian side. So, not as dominant as in the past.
Emiliano Tade is back in his favorite tournament once again. And they've got some names. For example, Angus Kilcawley, born in Hastings, New Zealand. A furious man, 27 years old, in the peak prime time of his life, scoring 7 goals in 9 games this season. Holland-like ratio there. Guiding this Auckland City team who's looking to just achieve something. Maybe pushing the team to extra time. Maybe just getting 1 goal in this tournament that can be notable in comparison to their past performances. Because just last year, for example, they were here once again, but they lost to Al Ahly 3-0 in a game that Al Ahly took over pretty quickly. So for me, the biggest storyline for Auckland City is how competitive can they be? Truly, because just the idea, the threat they pose of pushing a team farther than what they expect, pushing a team to really grind out a win, I think is a win in of itself. And if we see that, then I'll be a happy man.
That's the beauty of Auckland City, is I can guarantee one thing about the Club World Cup, and it's that Auckland City are going to show up. I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that they're going to be as competitive as they can be. And whoever they face in that opening match is not going to have it easy. Auckland City always guarantee that. Now, if I had to say who's going to win this game, I think no matter what, no matter who plays, I have Al Ittihad winning this game, even if they bench a couple of their foreigners and rest them. I just think that even the Saudi talent that they have is of a higher tier in comparison to this Auckland City side. Now, I know you can say that pretty much in every scenario, but I do think this Al Ittihad side is a little bit different than previous host teams that we've had in the past. This Al Ittihad side is not bad, and I think they will beat Auckland City no matter what Auckland throw at them.
Yeah, I agree. I think I have Al Ittihad going through here. Thank you, Auckland City, for making your yearly appearance. We will see you again next time around. But I agree. Al Ittihad goes through to face off against Al Ahly. Al Ahly, who are the CAF Champions League winners. currently sitting in second place in the Egyptian Premier League and in first place in their CAF Champions League group. Obviously, only think two match days have happened so far, so it's early. But they've got names, man. Percy Tau. They got Anthony Modesto, the ex-Dortmund player here at Al Ahly. Hussein El Shahat, Aliou Dieng, who we highlighted just a year ago as a great midfielder. Mohamed Absel Monem, Karim Fouad, Marian Atia. They beat Auckland City and Seattle Sounders last year, which I thought was a really notable result, beating an MLS side to then go on to face off against Real Madrid, who they then lost to 4-1. This Al Ahly team is good, bro. They're good, and they continue to just find ways to get back into this tournament, being the best team in Africa once again. Can they defeat an Al Ittihad side? I think it's going to be a fun matchup.
Yeah, and I think the answer is yes. They actually can. For Al Ittihad, their success against Al Ahly is going to be completely dictated on which foreigners play in this match. If Igor Coronado, Romarinho are healthy and playing, if somehow Benzema's back, that's how they win this game. If it's just Jota and Fabinho and that's it, then Al Ahly's winning this game. I really don't care what you throw at them. Al Ittihad's going to have their best players against Al Ahly to win. If they don't, Al Ahly will win this game.
100%. I agree. I think I'm going to go Al Ittihad here. I think the home factor plays a bit of a role here too. Saudi Arabia hosting this tournament with Al Ittihad representing them. I think they're going to show themselves out. I think that will help them a lot in this game. That will be at home. And then I do think health-wise, from what I'm seeing, it does seem like more than 2 foreigners will be available.
Hopefully.
And so I think as long as they get 3 or 4 in there, I think it'll be enough because their quality is just so goddamn high when they're all on it, specifically the foreigners. I think it will dismantle this Al Ahly side. So I'm actually going to go Al Ittihad makes it through to the semifinal.
Yeah, I'm just going to go based off of that condition. If they get the right guys on the pitch, I think they win. If they just can't, and even if they play the best that they possibly can, Al Ahly is going to beat them.
And on the other side of the bracket, during this stage, we will have León facing off against AFC champion Urawa Red Diamonds. This matchup's crazy, bro. Because when you really think about it, this could have been LAFC versus Al Hilal.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
That's crazy.
Imagine that. LAFC, who continued their level of success going deep in the Champions League last year, now in an MLS Cup final, playing very, very good football. León, on the other hand, just pretty much disappointing since then.
They're average
and
right now.
Same goes for Urawa Red Diamonds. It's the same narrative where they just completely dropped in form and in quality since their incredible victory over Al Hilal last year. And Al Hilal did the opposite. Got some names in the transfer window, boosted their squad completely, and now are playing the best football, in my opinion, in all of Asia. So we could have had LAFC versus Al Hilal. Instead, we have León versus Urawa Red Diamonds. Regardless, we got to deal with what's being thrown at us. So let's analyze this. León winning the CONCACAF Champions League through just what was ultimately an insane run, bro. An insane run where they just completed, where they just consistently
found form.
Yeah, found form and proved many people wrong in the process. Finishing off their Liga MX season in 8th place, knocked out by América in La Liguilla just recently. The names here. Should I go through the names, brother? You tell me. You're the León fan here. Do you want me to go through the names?
It's just going to be completely dependent on if they even show up, these names, bro. Because, you know, we have Viñas, unclinical in front of goal, but maybe he turns it on against the Japanese side. We don't know. Borja Sanchez makes decent appearances, I'd say every other game. Maybe this is that game. And then for the rest of León, I mean, we're solid. We have talent. We're gritty. We played against the best team in Mexico in America literally just this past week and put up a decent fight. Now, obviously, we got absolutely mollywopped at the end of the day.
Molly, baby.
But, you know, it's the best team in Mexico. Now, on the other side for Urawa, they have some players that can link up. Yoshio's been decent on link-up play. Jose Cante, the Ghanaian, is very good in front of goal, but his link-up play is pretty poor. You have Linson, the Swede, who's decent at link-up play, not good in front of goal. So, honestly, these two teams are very similar as far as form. There's a lot of inconsistency with both, though I will give the edge here to León.
Yeah.
I do think individually, I mean, even take into account El Diente Lopez, right? Individually, I think León have a higher chance of putting in a goal than Urawa do. And I see our defenses as very similar. So if I take all of that into account, I think León actually have a decent edge here.
I just think Urawa has disappointed more since winning the title than Leon has.
Yeah, that's
ultimately.
true.
I mean, Urawa's in 4th place in the J League right now, which might not sound that crazy, but when you won the Champions League, I mean, that's the Champions League, bro, in Asia. You're the best team. You defeated Al Hilal in a fascinating manner. I would expect them to follow that up the following season, but in the Champions League specifically, they were bad, bro. They were a bad team in the AFC Champions League, ultimately not being able to qualify out of the group and eliminated going into the 6th round. Urawa was not able to defend their title well, and although they have some notable names, like you said, Jose Cante, Hiroki Sakai, Alexander Scholz, they have these players.
Broughton.
Yeah, I don't think it's enough to top what I think Leon is capable of when they're the better team. And I do think Leon wins this matchup, which is crazy because you realize what that means.
Yeah, bro. Punishment. You don't want to win this game, man.
You really don't, dude. That means that Leon goes on to face off against Manchester City in the semifinal. We're going to see Mexicans get abused all over the fucking pitch, man. It's gonna be brutal, man.
Maybe we can dig deep. Maybe we can dig really
God
deep.
Damn it, man. I wish it was LAFC, man.
Me too.
I really do. That would have been fun.
Or honestly, like, what if America?
Yep.
What if America had won the Champions League last year, taken their form, and look how well they're playing now? Like, honestly, I would give America a gambler's chance against Manchester City, but I'm not giving Leon any chance against City. City's going to win this game no matter what. I'm really curious to see what Leon do, though, because one thing I like about Leon is we always have a plan. I'm not saying we execute it perfectly, but Larcamón always has an idea on how to play, and usually his ideas are right. I'm really curious, like, are we just going to bunker in? Or are we going to try to combine at all? I'm really curious to see. But no matter what, the result's going to be the same.
Yes, and I must give them a proper preview, as I've done with every single team so far. Manchester City. UEFA Champions League winners. First title in their history. Currently in 4th place in the Premier League.
Prem's diet.
Currently in 4th place, but the best goddamn team on earth. The only thing, I sat in my room for hours just thinking, what is the flaw here? What is the thing that I could highlight that could work against it? What is it, bro? And it may not even be, it might not be something that's in Leon's control, honestly. It might be something that is just down to the footballing gods, and just that's injuries. Will injuries and weird form hinder them? It's the only question.
Okay.
They're on a 4-game streak of losing points, dropping points in the Prem. That's rare for Manchester City. Yeah, even during their low points in the first half of the season that they tend to go through, this is still pretty rare for 4 straight results, such as the one we saw with like Aston Villa just completely dominating them in a way that was crazy, mainly due because of the injuries that they were experiencing with Jeremy Doku out, with Kevin De Bruyne, Grealish, Rodri with red card suspension. They didn't have their best players, and it showed because Manchester City got outplayed. Now, I'm not saying Leon's going to play up to an Aston Villa level, but I'm just saying if there's anything to hope for, it's that form continues and that the injury gods play in Leon's favor. That's it. Otherwise, Manchester City is going on to the final.
Yeah, they're going to the final.
No deep analysis there.
There's just
straightforward
there, man. Truly, I just don't see how Leon do it. If we can't beat America, then I just don't really see how we beat Manchester City.
On the other side, you have Fluminense awaiting either Al Ahly, Al Ittihad, or Auckland City. Copa Libertadores champions Fluminense, who defeated Boca Libertadores in extra time. Fernando Diniz guiding these guys. John Arias, Andre, Marcelo, Ganso, Keno, John Kennedy, Herman Cano. Finished the Brazilian league in 7th place, but to them it didn't matter. They got the biggest trophy in South America, winning the Copa Libertadores. And just to kind of remind you guys of what happened with the Brazilian or South American representative last year, Flamengo lost in the semifinals to the Saudi Arabian side in Al Hilal, who then went on to go to the final to face off against Manchester City. That's what Fluminense has here. They have history in terms of a nation, Brazilian side coming to this tournament time and time again, but they have the momentum of having won a major trophy and actually having some really good, experienced players on this squad. And when I say experience, I'm talking about players in their fucking 40s, bro. I think their goalkeeper's like 44 years old, bro.
Yeah, Felipe Melo too, Marcelo.
Guys nearing the 40-year mark. So true grandpa veteran experience here. Will they be able to make it to a final, given that they are probably set to face off against either a really feisty Al Ahly side, or by that point, if they make it there, an Al Ittihad side that will probably be healthy and then in really good form playing at home?
I think no matter who they play, Auckland, Al Ittihad, or Al Ahly, I think Fluminense wins. I really do think so. When they find their form, they are nearly unstoppable on the offensive end. And that's the thing, is I don't know if I see Al Ahly or Al Ittihad outscoring Fluminense. That's my biggest thing. They might concede a couple, but Fluminense will outscore you. And if they show up knowing that they get to play Manchester City in that final, to have an opportunity to play against a side like that, I think they're going to win no matter who they play in that semi.
Yeah, man, I tried to convince myself of Al Ittihad going on like a pretty magical run here. But the thing is, to get to the final, they got to win 3 games, dude. 3. And there's too many questions. Like we said, the injuries, the chemistry, they have the names, they have the guidance behind Marcelo Gallardo, but it's not proven the way that Fluminense is, man. And the fact that Fluminense, their first, you think they're just going to arrive at Saudi Arabia and lose their first match? That just doesn't feel like Fluminense to me, because time and time again, especially in South America and La Copa Libertadores, you have to prove that you can face adversity and defeat it and overcome it. And they did it, bro, over and over again against these really strong South American sides, doing it and finishing it off against Boca Juniors in that final in extra time, which I just think says so much about their character, about the way that they can just, step up in those big moments with pressure on them. I think it's huge, and I just don't think a team like Al Ahly can do that. I don't think a team like Al Ittihad will be able to top them ultimately. Will it be a good match? I do think so.
Yeah.
I do think these teams either one of these teams can pose a really, really good threat. But I do see a Brazilian team not getting upset this year, with Fluminense going through and facing off against Manchester City, which that should make for a great matchup, man.
And this is where I'm going to give that gambler's chance here, because if City are a little out of form, if they do have a little bit of injury, then I think Fluminense is the only team in this tournament that could maybe take advantage. Now, obviously, if I have to pick a winner, I'm still going to choose Manchester City. I think the way that they manage a game, Fluminense too, just can go a little quiet during 90 minutes. And if you do that against Manchester City, you might get heavily punished. So I'm still going to pick City as the ultimate winners here. But I'm actually going to give Fluminense a decent chance here. I think they can go at Manchester City. But it's just such a tough task if you're not used to that type of pressure.
I think, man, I mean this with all respect, I really do, but the way I see this matchup, I think City's spanking Fluminense. Yeah. We're going to see a Brazilian spanking here. And it's no disrespect to Fluminense, but it's because of the styles for me, man. I just think that Fluminense was able to get these victories time and time again because the teams that they faced off against, like you mentioned, weren't able to really capitalize on them when they had that window of opportunity. And Manchester City, I mean, they create the window of opportunity. They don't wait for you to give it to them. So the fact that they have a team just coming at them with the quality that they have at hand, Pep Guardiola with his opportunity to win this team their first Club World Cup championship, I really don't see a universe where Fluminense is able to win where Fluminense is able to get the victory here. When you look in the past, when you look at the teams that have been able to upset the strong European side, like a Corinthians, or I believe, who was the other one? Sao Paulo, I think, did it as well in the early 2000s. When you look at those teams and you look at who they face, the teams they faced did have their flaws. They might have lost their form from the months after they had won the Champions League tournament. With Manchester City, though they have lost it a bit contextually within the grand scheme of who they are, I don't think it's enough to give that gambler's chance to Fluminense. So I'm going to go City wins this matchup. I'm actually going to say like 3-0, maybe 3-1, and they become FIFA Club World Cup champions, man, for the first time in their club's history.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I have City winning this every time, 10 times out of 10.
For sure.
Yeah. But you're right, though, because when you look at that Corinthians sides that did beat Chelsea, Corinthians was a very defensive side. That's how they won that game. Very defensive, 2 low blocks of 4, and then they had 1 or 2 guys on the outlet and took advantage of set pieces. Fluminense do not do that. That is not how they get their goals. They get their goals by you coming at them and then hoping they don't concede and then going at you on the counter. That's how they do it. Problem is, you can't do that against City. You just can't. So, yeah, I have Manchester City being the 2023 champions of the FIFA Club World Cup.
Still, though, man, this is what I love about this tournament. It's the last time that we'll see it in this sort of iteration, this format, because it's going to be switching in the future. I love this tournament because, you get a Brazilian side facing off against English side Manchester City in what is truly a competitive format. That's not something you see often, man. So many times it's a friendly or it's just a exhibition match. This is a genuinely meaningful game with silverware on the line. And whether it's a Brazilian team or Fluminense or Al Ahly or Al Ittihad that makes it to that final to face off against Manchester City, I just get so excited about the prospect of these matches because it truly is like rare and finite and something to truly appreciate when it's happening.
Yeah, dude, because when you think about the friendlies, they're always backed by finances, right? Like they'll go to Korea, Japan, or China, or they'll go to the United States. No way in hell Leon would get the chance to play Manchester City, even in a friendly.
Yeah.
So even the matchup itself, even take out the competitiveness, Leon Manchester City would never happen in any other reality, but FIFA gives it to us.
Yes.
And I'm so happy they do, man. I'm honestly going to really miss this 7-team format tournament. It's so short and sweet. I absolutely love it. But I think the bigger 32 team is going to be just as good. It's going to be even more insane. I'm going to miss this little tournament.
I'm going to miss this for sure.
It.
And I can't make comment on the future tournament because I need to see it happen first before I can generate an opinion. But for now, what did exist and what is going to happen one more time will be cherished by the Give and Go boys. And finally, to close off this episode, we have a Patreon exclusive question. This time coming from Keenan Anderson, who says, which team outside of CONMEBOL / UEFA do you think will be the first to win a World Cup? So we're talking about CONCACAF sides, we're talking about CAF teams, African teams, Asian teams. Who's going to be able to lift the World Cup for the first time in their continent's federation's history? Who's it going to be, bro?
Who's it gonna be, man? I'd say straight up you could nominate the USA, Mexico, maybe a North African side, so maybe either Algeria, Morocco, Senegal's West African, let's add them in there, and then I would put Japan. So out of like those 5-6 sides, I would nominate one of those countries to be the team that does it first. Now, out of those, which one would you pick?
Oh, that's fun.
That's fun because
that's fun.
When you look at the rise Japan's on, they've been rising for over a decade. Are they done rising? Or are they just going to keep getting better and better? That's going to be really interesting to follow. And if you really think about it, and we'll do the analysis once it comes, Japan might be like the dark horse going into 2026. They might be. And we'll definitely find out if they win this AFC Asian Cup next month. That's going to be ridiculous because the way they're unstoppable right now. No matter who they play, they win 4-5-0. Like the USA is not even doing that, and I thought they were on a similar trajectory. Japan's doing that, and not only that, but we've seen the talent that Japan has out in Europe. It's elite. Japan, I would actually say, is a very, very good nominee. I would probably put Japan over an African side just because it seems to be that no matter who's good in Africa, it's too spread out. It's just too spread out.
Yeah, that for sure.
When you look at like Egypt, for example, you have Mohamed Salah, but they just haven't been able to get the team around him to do it. Even you could actually say a similar thing to Senegal. Like they've been able to win an AFCON. I understand that, but at the World Cup this last year, I thought they should have done a lot better, but they ultimately couldn't. And then you could say the same thing about Algeria. They're so good, but do they always have the best players at the right time? They have so many good players over the course of 60 years, but do they get it like right in that right pocket? And do they have the youth system to continually churn out Riyad Mahrez's? I don't think they do. I don't think they do. So I would actually put Japan's youth system over any Africans. And now the comparison is Mexico and the U.S., and that gets interesting because, well, I think very highly of what the USA is doing right now with their youth.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm actually going to rule out CONCACAF teams as winning the first trophy outside of Africa or outside of Europe or CONMEBOL. I think it's in Asia, bro. Because when I look at Africa, my issue, I agree, it is too spread out. But I also think that when they do have the players, Africa, all these teams, but more specifically, I'll use Nigeria as an example, an incredible ability to actually have a full team of amazing players. But the management of it, bro, the tacticians, the coaching minds over there just are unable to make the most of that time and time again. It was with Morocco, the first time that we ever saw it, with them going on a deep, deep run to go to the semifinals this past World Cup. Regragui, the way that he was able to take on the team, implement his strategies and his ideas to maximize the talent that he had, and he maximized it like incredibly. I just don't have that confidence with Asia, man. There's a style that's being implemented over there. There's a good fundamental teaching of the game that I think is starting to simmer its way into every single national team over in Asia. And so I just think it's a little bit more fruitful over there, and it's actually working with Japan kind of spearing this new movement that we're seeing of Asian football rising. I'm gonna put my money on that first, and then I think, man, this is tough. Then it's really close between CONCACAF and Africa. I guess I'll go Africa here.
I'm going to give the edge to CONCACAF here. Even though I know Africa always has more players in Europe, but that's the problem. It's spread out. There's so many countries in Africa that it's rare that you have a huge conglomerate of one nationality playing at a high level. It's usually very spread out, whereas you look at a team like the USA, well, every single player plays in Europe. And if that keeps happening, I think we'll have a better chance over an African counterpart.
Yeah, I can see that. No, I can see that for sure. I just, man, with how close Morocco ended up getting, it just tells me that, like, Africa could get more lucky. They're more prone to getting lucky because they're more African teams. It could just be like a numbers thing too.
Okay.
Like, Senegal one year just goes deeper because they just have bigger chance. They have more teams that have the talent is more spread out, but they have more teams to potentially find that form versus CONCACAF is ultimately just relying on Mexico and USA to figure it out. That's tough. That's really tough. But it would be USA that gets it. For me, well, it is tough. Right now we're trying to project the whole fucking scope of World Cup history here.
No, that's what we're trying to do. That's what this question is
damn,
to do, dude.
I do think it'd be one of those 5 teams. Yeah, let's just settle on those 5 teams. USA, Mexico, Japan.
6 teams.
God damn, dude. But if all I'll say is the day it happens, if it's Asian, African, or North American, I'm going to be celebrating like it's my own team because this will be a monumental achievement in the grand scheme of not even football, but the world, man.
Dude, what's crazy, we're never going to know when it's going to happen. Like,
if it does,
you could project
we could die and it never happens.
You could try and predict it, but we'll never really know. Even if we go really hard 1 year in Japan and we're like, they can do
this is it.
We'll still be surprised when they actually do it. That's what's crazy. Like, when we predict France or Argentina to do it, we are surprised in how they get there, but at the end of the day, we're like, this makes sense. If we ever even predict that Japan or the USA get there and actually do it, that's going to be one of the craziest days of my life. My life, bro.